Very good morning to all my dear friends. I am Prashant Mauni and I warmly welcome all of you to StudyIQ. I hope you all are doing good. It's a beautiful morning today and let's have a positive start. Silence and smile are two powerful tools. A smile is the way to solve many problems and silence is the way to avoid many problems. Do think about it, whether they do work or not. I will leave it on you guys to think about it. With this, dear friends, StudyIQ provides pen drive and tablet courses for various different exams. To know more about it, just check out StudyIQ.com. Just in case if you have any question or queries, you have chat support on our portal and you have these numbers. You can feel free and give us a call. Now, dear friends, the things that we have got on board today, you have a very long article and I'm sure you know, most of you would be knowing about it, that this editorial is going to be about budget. And this article and this article, right? All these three items are talking about budget. This one is a very interesting. Most of the time, the topics that are taken on this yes, no, and complicated are okay-ish, and I don't take them that much seriously because most of the time, what I feel personally, they are not important for your exams. But this one is, right? This one is a very important article, and I would reckon all of you that if possible, then do save this article as well, right? Do save this article. You'd be able to copy paste it from the Hindu website as well, so you can do that if you don't have access to physical or e-paper. So these are the things that we are going to discuss. And regarding budget thing, before I move ahead, I would like to tell you that, see, you have two different articles written by different authors, and then you have this editorial as well. Now you know the difference between article and editorial and things like that. So there are going to be many things that you will find in all these three items, right? So I have kept it as it is, means if something is being repeated, then I have of course left it. I have not compiled everything together because then it would become too much complicated for all of you to go through it or understand it. So I have kept it segmented or different. I have kept it separated basically, right? So we'll go through this editorial first and then we'll go through these two items, and as we'll go along, I will of course explain the background theories as well wherever it will be required. So let's crack on, dear friends. Now, tug of war between populism and fiscal prudence. This is something that you find all the time when it comes to budget. The thing is that 2019 election is also going to take place. General elections are going to take place, and of course the government will try its level best. It would be very difficult for any government, and it's not only about India, right? It applies to all the democracies in the world, that whenever you are throwing your last budget, then of course a bit of populism means you are taking those sort of you can say steps that are going to be good for the ears, but maybe a bit difficult in implementation, and this creates a sort of course, you know, a sort of impact on voters, right, when it comes to their decision to elect to elect parties or vote for a particular party. So this is something that we find here, but I must say that once we'll go through it, you will come to know as well that this is not that popular, or it is not too much inclined towards this populism. A bit of fiscal prudence, that means a fine fiscal balance as well can be seen here. A little bit here and there is of course something that you find. And one more thing regarding interesting thing about budget is that today the whole paper, right, if you go through the Hindu or if you go through financial papers like Economic Times or Business Standard, then you will find that you'll find pages and pages of budget, right? And then you'll find different experts giving their own opinion. Someone will refer it as pro farmer budget, someone will say anti corporate budget and things like that. So you can go through it, right? There is no harm in going through it. The more opinion you have, of course it will take you or put you in a situation where you will feel that things are getting too complicated, but then you have to form your decision as well, and then you can compare it. But if you are a beginner, then don't worry too much about it. If you are following me on the Facebook page, then I have shared a video of one of my colleague. He has delivered a lecture. It's in Hindi, English one should be out soon. It's on budget, and of course we are going to talk about budget in next coming days as well. You don't have to read the whole budget, you have to pick up important bits and pieces. But anyways, I'm here to guide you as much as I can, so I believe things would be all right. So right, let's crack on ahead. Right, so this budget, populism and fiscal prudence, tug of war, you find it all the time. Now the thing is that this year, right, government got extra money from this direct, I'm going to use this normal terms, right, layman's language. If I say revenue, then many of you will be thinking that what revenue is and what expenditure is. Money coming in for the government in its pocket from direct taxes, because direct taxes have been up. Then disinvestment, basically government selling the stake, or government companies, right, government is selling the shares, and this is called basically disinvestment. So money coming in again in form of capital in the pocket of government. So these things were going good, but we know that GST had some problems, and in between the slabs were reduced as well on many services and goods, so the revenue was naturally going to fall down. So this is something that took place with GST and dividend receipts, the money coming in, or government earning money from dividend was down as well. So because of this thing, there was a bit of crunch, or you can say even though the collection was high, but because of shortfalls in this thing, it became a sort of balancer. Now the thing is, the root cause of distress in our economy or in our country is, first of all, unremunerative farm incomes. We know that the condition of farmers are very bad. Unemployment is a bit high as well. Lack of social security nets and squeeze on the middle class taxpayers. These are considered as root causes of distress. Now, the intent of our finance minister regarding this budget is clearly welfareist, to look after the welfare of everyone. And this can be understood by the things that have been said in the budget. Now if we consider agriculture, then government has promised that it will pay 1.5 times higher MSP, minimum support price. That means all your expenses, say for example your production cost is 100, right, for 1 kilo of, say for example, rice, then you will get at least 150 rupees, right, 150 rupees you will get as MSP. This is a sort of guarantee for the government, but the money that government has kept on side is 29,041 crore rupees, which is bit low, right? We have seen that loan waivers as well, whenever this Uttar Pradesh and other governments, when they have done this loan waiver, the money was bit higher. Now how this is going to be rolled out, it is left with this Niti Aayog to design a foolproof mechanism to deliver this 1.5 times MSP. And interesting thing is that all crops, right, earlier on we used to have some 23 crops that were covered under this MSP scheme, but now you have all the crops all across the board. Everything will be covered under this MSP scheme. Now it also talks about creating or setting up this farmers market. You know, this APMCs, agricultural produce market committees. You have middlemen over here, and they are the ones who are sucking away all the profits from the farmers. And this is something that government is worried about as well. Because of this reason, they came out with this e-NAM, but e-NAM has not picked up that much. So now it is talking about setting up farmers market. And 2,000 crore allocation, again, that much, it is not that huge amount. There is a very ambitious rural package. When we talk about this budget, right, this year's budget, it talks about 3 crore free gas connections. It talks about 4 crore free electricity, right? Then you have this 2 crore new toilets under Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and higher micro irrigation coverage as well, something that is very important, micro irrigation. And then you have this National Health Protection Scheme, one of the, you can say the cherry that we find in this budget, is because it is the biggest, it is going to be the biggest health protection scheme in the world. It is going to cover 10 crore households, 10 crore poor people. So 10 crore households, not poor people. When I say 10 crore households, we are talking about 50 crore people, right? 50 crore people, and they will get 5 lakh health cover if they have to go through any operation or something. If they are hospitalized, then per family per year, right, will get 5 lakh health cover. So if a family of 5 has A, B, C and D, so if A is not well in 2018, then A can be hospitalized. And say for example, if A's total expense is 1.2, then they have, or say for example 1 lakh, then the family of 4, they have 4 lakh rupees again as insurance cover. But this is what I assume, because we don't have that much details regarding this thing. Of course, we will hear more about it, because this is going to be a very big cover, and we have some more details in other editorials in the coming article. So let's not go too much deep into this thing. But the thing is that when we talk about this different other, education is there, right? We are talking about learning outcomes should be improved rather than just numbers. Then we are talking about this universal health coverage under this National Health Protection Scheme. And we are talking about this minorities and uplifting and empowering girl child, educating girl child and things like that. But the money that is allotted is just 1.38 lakh crore. 16,000 crore is increased compared to what was there last year. Infrastructure appears to be one of the few sectors where the funding problems has been addressed, with PSUs bankrolling a significant proportion of 5.97 lakh crore. It's not bad, because we have talked about it, and I'm sure many of you would be knowing this thing, that when we say infrastructural, when we invest in infrastructure, right, what happens is when you connect villages with roads, when you create this highways, and when you create bridges, and when you create office space and other things. So first of all, construction will absorb many people, unskilled people, right? They will get job. The other thing is that if you connect a city with multiple villages are connected with a town or a city, what will happen is that economic activity will go up. So in this way, this has a multiplier effect, infrastructure. So investing, I would rather use the word investing in infrastructure, is going to give a kick to the whole economy. Now, talking about this middle class and corporate sector, that much benefit or is not given under this budget most of the time. To keep middle class and taxpayers happy, the tax slabs are reduced, right? So if earlier on, if you are paying, say for example 20% tax of whatever you are earning, and if it is reduced to 15%, then this tax paying class will feel, of course, naturally they will feel happy, because you will have more money as you're saving. And it is not a loss for the government, because when you have other options, when you save or park this money in a bank, or if you're investing it in the market, then of course it is going to create more jobs and more opportunities. So both the ways, right, government is going to benefit. This is a bigger picture that I'm talking about. If the government is in crisis, if it requires money urgently, then of course reducing this slab is not going to be that good, right? If you need money, then you need to collect as much as revenue as possible. But if you think that people are investing, if this is a pattern, then let them invest as they like. So not that much you can say giveaways for middle class and corporate sector here. But small businesses, right, they have benefited out of it. And this salary, people earning salaries, right, or getting money as salaries, they will get a sort of exemption if they place their transport expenses and medical reimbursement. This will be given to them. But education cess has been added, so again it is going to be equal. So here you can place your medical reimbursements and things like that, but here education cess is going up, so it is going to make things equal. So not that much big difference for middle class. Moving on to this corporate tax that we were talking about earlier on, 50 crore turnover companies were falling under this thing, but now 250 crore turnover companies up to 250 crore. If your company is doing up to 250 crore, then you have to pay 25% tax rather than 30%. So this is going to benefit many companies. And the other thing is that regarding corporate big companies, not allowing them or not reducing their tax slab is going to create some problems for these corporate companies, because around the world, say for example USA and European countries, they have decreased their corporate tax. So eventually their products are going to be a bit cheaper. So in international market, our giants are going to face a bit of competition because of this tax thing. Senior citizens are going to benefit out of it as well, because tax reliefs are being provided to senior citizens, and when you provide them tax relief or on the interest they earn from this bank deposits and post office schemes, then what happens is that rather than the senior citizens keeping their eggs in risky baskets, they will prefer to keep it with banks and post offices, from where they can have some assured monthly regular incomes rather than taking too much risk. So this is going to be good for senior citizens, and budget has a sense of direction as per this editorial. And if some of the things are looking, or if they look a bit illogical, then it's not the government, it is the revenue constraint that has kept us or the government in this situation. Hopefully in near future we will see improvement in GST collections as GST will stabilize in near future, and then we will see more money coming in for the government. Now moving on to this article, Goodbye to Fiscal Consolidation. It says that Narendra Modi government has taken pride in having restored the economy to the path of fiscal consolidation. Fiscal deficit targets are discussed quite widely in newspapers today. I must say one thing, that it's not always bad, right? This is something, again, a big picture we are talking about. Fiscal deficit is not always bad. If you are, of course, breaching your set target, and if you are going too high, say for example, if you have decided that fiscal deficit target is going to be 4% of your GDP for the coming year, and if you are clocking somewhere around 10, then this is going to be very bad policy, or the way you are handling things are a bit bad. But basically, if you don't know what fiscal deficit is all about, it's basically the money that you get in, right? Or let me put it this way, right? You are spending more than your earnings. This simple is that, right? If you are earning 10 rupees and if you are spending 11, then you know that this 1 rupee you have to borrow it from someone else. Next year, if you do the same thing, right, you have decided that you are going to sort of things 11 rupees plus 1 is going to be 1. You have decided that you are going to pay back this thing, but next year if you have spent 13 rupees, so you know that every year your borrowings are growing and growing, and then you have to pay interest and things like that, and then money will become expensive. And these are all theories, and of course, for beginners, I would say, for regular listeners, I know that it won't be that difficult for you to understand, but for the beginners, don't worry about it. This sort of things are going to be repeated. We will find these topics being repeated, and of course by time you can go through some of our this is the reason why I keep on saying pen drive courses, right? They help you a lot with your basic understanding as well. Anyway, so this fiscal target of 3% as recommended by one committee, we would be able to achieve this by 2021 or 2020 or 2021, not at present 2018-19. It is going to be 3.3%. Now 0.% makes a huge difference. We are talking about 7th you can say biggest economy in the world. Now revenue receipts in 2017-18 have grown faster. This is a good thing. We have talked about it earlier on as well. I told you that this were some positive signs, but remember that GST thing going down, and because of that there was a shortage, right? Shortage in revenue or money, right? So capital receipts are expected to exceed the budgetary estimate. Now capital receipts means if you are selling your property, right, the money that you get is called capital, right? So something when you are disinvesting, government decided to disinvest, and the target, we have already fulfilled our target. In fact, we have crossed our target, government has got a huge amount of money from this disinvestment process too. And so in terms of revenue side, everything is fine. It is only the expenditure side that has created problems for the government. Now, revenue expenditure grew by 15% compared to budget estimate of 6%. So here you can see this example that I was talking about, that your revenue expenditure was up by 15% compared to your budget estimate. You estimated that you are going to spend 6%, but now you have spent 15%. An increase in establishment expenditure accounts for more than 40% of the increase in revenue expenditure, and capital expenditure ended up lower. Capital expenditure, you see here revenue and capital. Capital expenditure means you are investing, I must say, in, say for example, roads, right? So when you do invest, or when you are spending money for infrastructure and things like that, then you can call it a capital expenditure. When you are giving out as subsidy, then that's your revenue expenditure. I hope these things are clear as well. So this capital expenditure was down because what happens is that when you're spending money on the other side, then this one, of course, you have to cut down over here. So this was flagged as one of the greatest accomplishment earlier on, right? This budget 2017 capital expenditure has been set at 10.7%. And one second, just a sec, this was flagged as one of the great accomplishment of last year's budget, but it was expected to boost GDP growth. This is talking about this capital expenditure. As I told you, that when you invest in infrastructure and things like that, then eventually everything, it will have a ripple effect. But this is something that we have not been able to do that much, and expenditure has gone out of control. So this has created this deficit problem for the government. Now, the budget projects an increase in tax revenue. This is a good sign. Something that has been said by economic survey as well is talking about. Economic survey is saying that things are going to be brighter in near future, and the budget projects an increase in tax revenues of 16.6% compared to 15.3% of the previous year, right? And we know that there are no big giveaways. We talked about this thing, this middle class and this corporate sector. Economic survey argues that this growth was dampened by combination of factors. The reason why growth was hampered, and the thing is high real interest rates, disruption caused by demonetization, and goods and service tax. Now, the impact of these two things, GST and DEMO, has gone now, and we still are struggling with this. The economy is still struggling with this twin balance sheet problem and high oil prices. The price of crude oil is going up and up, and this is going to create problems for our government. I'm sure you know about it. A couple of days ago, we talked about this thing in detail. Asset prices may fall as well, because it is believed that around the world asset prices may go up, may go down, and if around the world, if the price of assets are going down, then this assets will go down in India as well, and then you will have this consumption and investment sort of problem, and these banks won't be able to reduce interest rate. You know how when interest rates are reduced, then you will feel to borrow, to take a loan. But when instead, if the money or if the interest rates are raised, then things are going to be a bit tighter, and the government will be in difficult situation. This minimum support price thing, we have talked about it, and corporate tax thing as well, we have talked about it. Now, only thing that I would like to mention here, that is add on to this editorial that we have discussed, is that health services should be provided by the government hospitals. As per this new scheme, people will get benefit. They can get a bed in private hospitals as well. But we should think about increasing the reach of these government hospitals, because private hospitals, you know that once you are insured, then private hospitals will make heavy bills as well. This one is about question of credibility. The entire fiscal adjustment path has been reworked in this budget. Finance Minister devoted a considerable part. How it started by elaborating the focus area in the budget. He talked about this is the ways, like, or this includes, or the things that he said are going to strengthen, like the agriculture and rural economy, and this healthcare thing, senior citizens, and creation of infrastructure, and working with the states to improve the quality of education and things like that. Is right. Now, if we carefully analyze the various sectors, then we find that this most of them have got a little bit money, but this food storage and warehousing has got or has seen an increase of 19.4%, and this is because of this minimum support price at 150% of the cost thing. Regarding again figures, right, too many figures, but I have to take you through them, so be patient with me. Capital expenditure is estimated to be 9.9%. Now I'm sure you know what capital expenditure is all about. Social services, the money that we spend after social services, is going to be 7.8, economic services 6.7, and grants to the states for central schemes is estimated 13.8% rise. These are all this is not the share of our budget. This is basically the rise of what was given earlier on, right? And the slippage was, this total revenue available with the government was higher than budget estimate by 3%, and then we know this problems regarding GST and other things. So on the tax fronts, the most important issue is the proposal to levy the long-term capital gains tax above rupees 1 lakh. So government is decided that long-term capital gains will be taxed at anything above rupees 1 lakh if you have 365 days or more, if you have invested, and then if you get money or if you make profit, then 10% will go in the tax. And there is a case for the tax to be neutral between all the forms. There are the people who are demanding that whether it is immobile property or mobile property, there should be one tax all across the board. So this is a demand, and government is thinking or working on this thing as well. Now this one is a very important article, as I told you that you can save it as well if you like. I hope things are clear with this budget thing. Most of the things were repetitive, right? But anyway, let's go through this one. Yes, no, and it's complicated. It's about simultaneous election. Should we have simultaneous election or no, or whether yes or no? Let's go through it. Now the first one is this bit here is in favor of this simultaneous election. It is talking about that election basically is for strengthening our democracy, but when we have too many elections, then what happens is that it creates a sort of weakness. Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently said in an interview, and I would like to add here, which is not mentioned here, but he said that it's not about expenditure only. It is also creating a sort of bitterness within political parties in different states, which is harmful for our cooperative federalism. Very important point here. This point is not mentioned in this article, but I would like you guys to note this thing down. Very important point coming directly from Prime Minister. Then you have this MCC kicking in every time, Model Code of Conduct. So because of that, developmental work comes to a choke hold, then disrupt normal life, public life as well. Then you have this administrative machineries and expenses, and too much manpower and financial power is also invested, and you have security personnel going from here and there. And because of this thing, many times we find that security personnel, their core job to provide security is diversified, and government officials are also occupied during this election period. You know that the whole machinery, the only priority will be conducting this election, and other works will be left on the side. Now the no sayers are saying that this 1967 till 1967 we used to have this simultaneous elections taking place, but it was not something out of design, right? It was more about one party was there. It was less by design and more due to the stable majorities. But after that we saw instabilities taking place, new parties coming up, smaller parties, regional parties becoming national parties and things like that. So presidential rules and dissent and no confidence motions and things like that. fall and rise of different parties led or has distorted this sync between this national and state elections. And this is something that is product of democracy, and this is how it should be as per this no sayers, that we should not have this thing. Regarding model code of conduct, very interesting observation that these political parties should think about and rework this code of conduct rather than giving code of conduct or MCC as the main culprit. They should change, they should make necessary changes with this code of conduct. And the other thing is that they are talking about policy, that policy making and other things, but here political parties, they have to keep this thing in mind. They have to understand that providing patronage and policy making is altogether different things, so they should not confuse this thing with each other. They are saying that because of that you are not able to come out with policies and things like that, but we know it very well that when a political party that is in power, if it is saying that they are going to waive off farmers loan, then we know that they are trying to provide patronage. Then we know that freebies provided, free TVs and cycles and other things. And what will happen is that just in case if there are any problems in different states, or say for example in a state as well, if there are political problems going on, and if you have this people switching different parties and things like that, then the only solution that we will have is president's rule. And say for example within first year, if you have this situation, then for the rest 4 years you have to have this president's rule in that state. So this is a very strong point against the simultaneous polls. This one is coming from S.Y. Qureshi, a very, you can say, famous and able and interesting person. When I say interesting, I mean to say that he has worked as Chief Election Commissioner, and you find his articles many a times, and they are quite informative and capacity building as well. So he says that political consensus is the first thing that we require. Then too much of elections are a root cause of corruption, because you have to spend too much, so they are always looking for as much as money possible coming in. So these are some of the points of this it's complicated thing. And the biggest thing that I find here is this Atal Bihari Vajpayee, right? At that point of time, back in history, he lost his government in 13 days. So what will happen when we have this simultaneous election thing, and if the central government falls down, then do we need to conduct elections in all 29 states? Can you imagine the thing, or the money and the waste of time and things like that? And the good thing about this election is that you can have multiple votes, so it is going to be easier for election commission. So you go to one booth and you can vote for your state government as well, and for your state legislative assembly elections and your general election at the same time. In Kenya, you have there were occasions where 7 different posts were voted in one shot. This one is about Modi saying that budget is people friendly. Again, this Ayushman Bharat Yojana, the one which we have talked about. Then Supreme Court wraps Aadhaar petitioner. Supreme Court judge said that you cannot term us Aadhaar judges if we are in favor of Aadhaar, or if our verdict is in favor of Aadhaar. At the end of the day, the job of the judge is basically to use his or her conscience rather than helping anyone out, right? Prevention of Money Laundering Act is going to see some sorts of changes. Section 8, subsection 8, that is a special court will be able to decide to sell off the property during the trial going on. And then you have this subsection 2 of section 66 that will allow sharing of information between different parties. Collegium reveals names of Chief Justice of 10 High Courts. Central has kept e-way bill on side. E-way bill is basically you have to create an e-way bill for 50,000 or more goods transported for 10 kilometers or above, and because of technical problems it has been kept inside. Recent Afghan terror attacks, Pakistan is blamed after it. You find minke whale dying in Atlantic Ocean, and this festival Sigmo is associated with Goa. Keep this thing in mind. Many a times you find this sort of questions in your MCQs. These are your answers. These are your questions. Literally no time. Again, we discussed too much about budget, so I end this discussion here. Dear friends, don't forget to check out StudyIQ.com. You will be able to download this file from my Facebook page, and don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell. Please do give us your like to motivate us, and pass your valuable comments, and do gift share this lecture with other people too. I'll see you all soon. Enjoy your studies. Jai Hind. Goodbye for now.